All right, hello everybody. It's 6:30. My name is Kaylee Hepburn and I'm the attorney for MariGrow LLC, and welcome to their community outreach meeting. We have
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Kelly.
No, I was just going to introduce you actually. We have with us our moderator, David Rabinowitz, and we will go quickly and then we'll get started.
Great. My apologies for the dogs in the background. I think that's just a function of these times with working from home. So tonight we're going to go through the MariGrow community outreach meeting. I'd like to go just through some etiquette. We'll go through the presentation. If you have any questions, use the chat button at the bottom. You can see in the screen we've circled it so you'll see exactly where it is. We may answer some of the questions as we go through. Other questions, when we will get through all your questions, but in some cases, there may be questions that that we know we're going to answer in the next few slides. So we'll hold off on those. But when we're done, we'll go through the chat and make sure all the questions are answered to everybody's satisfaction. Please be polite. I think most of the fears throughout the Commonwealth have subsided. So most lately, the past year or so, these meetings have been generally civil, and I'm sure that's how it'll be tonight. And with that, I'm going to turn it back to Kaylee to start with the presentation.
Great, thank you. So tonight we're going to cover a cultivation and manufacturing facility that we're looking to locate at 620 Spring Street. We'll go through the location, the type of establishment, local licensing, zoning, and permitting, the security we intend to have in place, our plan to prevent diversion to minors, our plan to prevent nuisance to the town, the positive impact plan, and the host community agreement. And as David said, if you have questions at any time, feel free to use the hand raising function or the chat, and I'm happy to answer them as we go or at the end. So MariGrow's principals are all residents of Massachusetts. They're currently running a large-scale construction company, so they know how to navigate state and local regulatory requirements. They know how to manage large amounts of people, keep them working. They know how to lead operations, and they know how to do the hands-on work themselves. They're also going to be hiring people that are skilled in cultivation and manufacturing, people for compliance, accountants, and security personnel. Our location is 620 Spring Street. It's within that 500,000 square foot industrial building on 33.75 acres. Our particular facility won't be visible from the outside. It's intended to be sited toward the back of the building, so you won't even know it's there when there'll be no changes to the outside of the building to let anyone know that there's going to be an establishment in the building. There'll be no signage. It's not retail, so the intent is that it's business as usual at that building, and nobody will even know that we're there. There's plenty of parking there already to accommodate the employees, so there's no change to the parking area. And as we're not retail, the traffic is not intended to surpass that of any normal industrial tenant in that building. Here are a couple of photos of the building from the Mass GIS. And a photo of the parking lot. This is only one of the parking lots in that building. There's tons of parking. And here's a map of where we're located. So they cut off this part up top here is Taunton, the river here. I know pretty much everyone from Dighton knows where this building is, I'm sure. And the building is here in this, this line. Aerial view. So we're looking to operate a tier 2 indoor cultivation and a product manufacturing facility. It'll be rolled out in 2 phases. The first will have a total square footage of 15 to 20,000 square feet. Of that, about 7 to 10,000 will be canopy. And in phase 2, it'll double to 30 to 40,000 total footprint with 14 to 20,000 square foot of cultivation canopy. The facility is in an industrial zone. The Dighton bylaws allow for cultivation and manufacturing in this district with a special permit and site plan review by the planning board. There's also Board of Health regulations that we'll comply with, and our host community agreement will be submitted to the Board of Selectmen for approval within the next couple of weeks, we hope. So there is a park And another proposed marijuana establishment, they actually had an outreach meeting a couple of weeks ago. So they're within the same building and the park is within a quarter mile. But we intend to request a waiver of these two buffer requirements, and that's supported mostly by our security plan and our diversion prevention plan. And all abutters within 300 feet have been notified of this proposed business. Security plan summary. So we have a security plan summary that's been drafted to be in compliance with the state regulations governing cannabis companies. And it'll be designed and implemented by a professional security company. And it'll be incorporated, all the cameras and locks and all of the limited access areas will be incorporated by our architect. So some highlights of that include strict identification requirements for access, limited access areas, video surveillance with 24-hour recordings, still photo capabilities, remote live viewing, and an uninterruptible power supply. Badges, key cards, commercial grade locks, a continuously monitored alarm system with a backup camera, safes for any finished products, comprehensive emergency response procedures and training, and secure waste disposal. So the security plan is not only reviewed by the Dighton Police Department, but it is also mandated by the state. So it's and the business obviously wants to keep their business secure also. So it's there's safety at multiple levels. And that ties right into our diversion prevention plan. So all of the companies in Massachusetts are dedicated to making sure that cannabis is accessible only to adults over age 21 and certified medical patients. So we'll work with licensed transporters and retailers to make sure that our products are only in the hands of people that they're supposed to be in the hands of. We have that comprehensive security plan that we talked about, which has an eye towards preventing diversion. The policies include strict adherence to identification and visitor badge requirements. So we'll make sure that there's never an unauthorized or underage person in the building or in our lease section of the building. The security system and compliance with metric make sure that our inventory policies are followed very closely. So metric is the state seed to sale tracking program, and all the plants have to be logged into metric from the time they're a seed all the way until they leave the facility. So that, and it has to be updated every day. So that process makes sure that if there's any diversion or any product discrepancy, we're aware of that really quickly and can figure out where it went and what happened and make sure it's not being diverted. So any instances of diversion that do happen will be immediately reported to the CCC, and whoever's responsible will be terminated. And finally, all the marketing will be geared towards people who are 21 and over. I'm going to go through a couple of normal, when people think of nuisance from a cannabis establishment, there's a few main things that come to mind. The first being traffic. I already went through that a little bit. We don't anticipate any change in the current traffic around that area. That would be different from a normal commercial tenant. We don't have anything retail going on at the location. So the only traffic would be our employees and infrequent deliveries. And the deliveries will be done in unmarked Sprinter vans, which are licensed and overseen by the state regulation. And they're unmarked. The companies are all, both by state regulation and just as good business owners, strive to be energy efficient in our lighting choices. So we also use blackout technology so that if there's any light being used to grow the plants after sunset or before sunrise, there's blackout technologies to make sure it doesn't leak out of the building and into the sky. So there's no light pollution. The water will be used with a reverse osmosis filtration system, which lets us recycle and reuse as much water as possible. And the odor will be controlled with carbon filters to minimize odor from outside the facility. So the goal of the company is really that when you're around the building or when you're walking by, you have no idea that the company is operating inside. So there's one other requirement of the state is that you implement a positive impact plan, and they're designed to impact those who are disproportionately harmed by cannabis prohibition and enforcement. So the commission has designated 5 different groups that these plans are supposed to help. The first would be residents of areas of disproportionate impact, which would be identified by the commission. Certified economic empowerment priority recipients, which are people who have applied to a program through the state. Likewise, social equity program participants, And then the fourth and fifth are MA residents with past drug convictions and Mass residents with a parent or a spouse who has a past drug conviction. So to benefit those groups, we've come up with a few different programs to reduce barriers into the cannabis industry. The first would be to fund an annual record sealing program in Dighton, and that would teach people who want to attend which records you can seal, which marijuana offenses you can seal, how to seal them, and it'll help through the court system. And the second would be to either host or fund an annual training program to help people from those groups with business skills such as how to raise funds, how to draft a business plan, and different entrepreneurship programs. It also might include cannabis cultivation training, but it could also be just business, general business classes. And those programs will be tracked. We'll track the participation, anonymous surveys of who attended and what groups they belong to. And we'll also look for a survey from the participants about what they liked about it, what they didn't like about it, and how it can be better next year. The next step in our process is to negotiate a host community agreement with the Dighton Board of Selectmen and the town administrator. So a host community agreement is the main contract between a cannabis operator and the town. It's valid for 5 years, and at the end of the 5 years, it can be either renewed, renegotiated, or let to expire. Some common elements include up to a 3% community impact fee, and that 3% fee is of gross revenue. It's paid to the town to mitigate impacts caused from the establishment. So the goal is that the company has a net zero impact on the town. So any possible impact that it has on the town, it pays for with this fee. It also generally gives preferences to local vendors and employees, so that if you have two qualified individuals, the tiebreaker would be local residency, to the extent that the law allows that. Do we have any questions from anybody that's attending, or anything in the chat, David? Anything?
So I think you've just addressed that we'll be hiring Dighton people. How will your finished product be transported from the plant, and how many employees will you be hiring?
Okay, so the finished product, they're transported in unmarked Sprinter vans, which are also highly regulated by the state to be secure. They have GPS tracking. They have to have 2 people in them. They have very specific requirements for record keeping. So the product will be taken in those Sprinter vans to the final location. Employees, we're looking at under 10 employees, and there will be a hiring preference for Dighton, both in the hiring and in using local vendors.
Kaylee, how effective are the carbon filters? What level of odor is expected?
So the carbon filters are used all around the country. They're generally pretty effective. We're hoping to not have any odor on the outside of the building. It should be scrubbed on the way out.
All right. Dighton is business friendly, and thank you, Ken. Ken from the Board of Selectmen made a comment. Dighton's business friendly, and we look forward to working with you.
You as well. We'll be presenting before you soon, I hope.
Any other questions, folks? Okay, seeing none, we will conclude the meeting and thank everybody for their attendance. Thank you.
Thank you.
We stop the recording?
Yep, I'm trying.
Thank you.